Welcome to the Times of Israel's What Matters Now, a weekly podcast drilling into one issue affecting Israel and the Jewish world right now. I'm your host, Amanda Borschel-Dan, here with Professor Dan Terner. Dan, thank you so much for letting me into your beautiful home.
Sure.
We are here. Dan is the Vice Dean of the Medical School at the Hadassah and Kerem Medical School. And Dan is also a pediatric gastroenterologist at a major hospital here in Jerusalem. And we're going to talk about many things, medicine, activism, and also specifically about the really horrific pictures that have come out of Gaza, including children, babies who have looked incredibly emaciated on the verge of starvation, and what Dan has to say about it, including rebutting what the IDF has to say about it. So all of this and more when we're back. I'm Amanda Borschel-Dan here with Professor Dan Terner. Dan, again, thank you so much for letting me join you in your home. Now, I would like to begin with the pictures that are coming out of Gaza, and my colleague Jeremy Sharon wrote an article including your opinion on this, and specifically the picture that I think has really horrified, the world, not an understatement there, the world, is one of Muhammad al-Mutawaq, who is an 18-month-old, and he just looks so terribly emaciated. Of course, very quickly, the IDF came out and said, this is not starvation. He has an underlying condition. And you and your colleague came out and said, there is no child with an underlying condition who would look like this in any Western nation in the world. So tell me more about this situation.
Yeah. True. When there is starvation, it's never across the board. So there are populations that are stronger and they get food for their people. We know it might be Hamas, but it might be anyone who has power, who have gunmen, if they live in a place that are well connected, or they live by a place that food is being distributed. At first, when there is starvation, the most vulnerable and sensitive population are being affected first. So it's not surprising that children and adults with underlying conditions or diseases are the first to be affected.
Right, obviously. And I think many people who saw these pictures, Muhammad's picture is just one of a handful that was spread across international media. Most thinking people would say, there's something else wrong with this child, but that doesn't mean that it's okay that they're in this situation.
No, on the contrary. I mean, when you see the most vulnerable people, they need the most care of the society. And if the society and we control what is happening in Gaza de facto. We don't want to say that, but that's de facto, that's what's happening. We are responsible that the most vulnerable people, the sick people, the children, the ones that are not connected, will get minimal humanitarian supplies, food, shelter, clean water, electricity, and medical care. This is very basic for any human values, and we need to judge ourselves based on our values. Like, what do we want to be? It doesn't matter what you think about the other side. Some people say that they like them, some people say they don't. It doesn't matter. It's a factor of who we are. Because if someone thinks that they can normalize inhuman behavior to people that they don't like, or for the group outside your group, they shouldn't be surprised that the same violence or inhuman values come into groups that might be controversial within your society. And this is what happened like a month ago when some of the settlers attacked the IDF soldiers, and everyone said, how can that be? Like, where were you for 2 or 3 years that they keep on attacking Palestinians to a current situation that there is burning houses, shooting people, murdering people on a daily basis, and no one's saying anything. Because these are the Palestinians, that's okay. But suddenly it comes into you and people are surprised. You can't be surprised. Or you have values or you don't. We need to decide what is our DNA.
And this is something that I would assume you as a doctor, you learned in medical school, to see a person as a person, a meat puppet just like any other.
Yeah, I think people ask me, when I'm dealing with quite a few content fields of activism, of social activism. People asking me how is that connected to medicine. I mean, medicine is about seeing other people and have compassion to people, seeing the suffering and the sorrow of people and trying to help. This is what we are. That's what we do on a daily basis. It doesn't matter if you are a sick patient in my clinic, or I'm just seeing you in another ward, or I'm seeing you on the street. If you can't do that, you cannot be a physician. But you know what? It's not about a physician. It's about being a human being. If you are someone who is blunt to other people suffering and sorrow, then you cannot be a human, because the things that ideology can lead you doing when you are incapable of seeing other people suffering, even people that you have severe conflict with, then that's the beginning of the end of our people, because that's what kept these values kept us for thousands of years. And if we cannot hold them now, that will come into our nation and will destroy us from the inside. And this argument does not diminish the argument that other people have rights. It's not only we need to treat with dignity because it's our interest, it's also because that's what is right to do. And sometimes you need to do the right thing. You know, as a physician in the hospital, many years I've seen prisoners coming into the hospital, and they are being cuffed in oblique way, so left leg and right hand to the bed, and it could be for days and weeks that you cannot turn around, you cannot move. Some patients like that are amputated or after significant surgeries. It's a torture. I mean, you try a whole night just to lie down without the ability to turn around. I cannot say I'm a saint, because for many years I've seen that. It bothered me, but I said nothing. And there was one time that opened my eyes. It's like you see, but you don't see. And in order to see something, you need to be able to open your heart and to absorb the reality into your heart and to think about it. And I've seen a child, he was maybe 12, I think. I don't know what he's done exactly, because he was never charged. He was discharged a few days later. He was shot from 300 meters by soldiers somewhere, and he came in at night and he lost his leg. There were surgeons working on his leg a whole night, and they failed. And he wakes up in intensive care unit, a 12-year-old boy or 13-year-old boy, with his leg amputated above his knee. And his two hands were handcuffed to the bed without his parents that were not allowed to come, and with 3 guards on the bed. And you look at this boy coming out of a coma. He says he went to school. They said he threw stones. God knows what he did. As I said, he never got charged. He's a 13-year-old child. And it's okay to, security is important, and it's okay to look after our interests, and IDF is me and you and our nation. And I don't blame anyone. I blame the system. I blame the government. I blame us as a nation that we allow this thing to happen. And I went over to them and I said, why are you handcuffing them? And then with a lot of authority, they said, doctor, you'll look after what you need to know, and we'll look after what we know, and that's security. And I said, they don't see what I just saw. I saw a real problem. And we went to the hospital, and we wanted to see what is the situation here. And we saw that no one knows what the rules are, because we're just people with a high rank and with a lot of authority. They just tell you to shut up, and you shut up because it's very frightening. And you see someone handcuffed. It's also your intuition is a scary person. He's a dangerous person. I don't want to get involved. You don't see him as a person. You don't see him as a human being. We started a national survey first to see what is the statistic. We published that in the Lancet for many hospitals through the ethics bureau of the Israeli Medical Society. We saw that over 95% of all prisoners and detainees in the hospitals, they are being detained in the way I just described. And We went to the security guard and the police and the soldiers and the prisoners authority, and we said, why are there handcuffs like that? But when the law says you need to handcuff only those who have real threat of violence or running away, it needs to be the exception, not the rule. And they say he's dangerous. And what about him? He's dangerous. What about him? He's dangerous. So everyone is dangerous. So what is the law for? I mean, the police is breaking the law every day. We had discussions back then, before the times of Ben Gvir, when there was a little bit more openness for the issue. And by the way, these are not only terrorists. It's not even Palestinians that are maybe criminal. It's only also Jewish people. There was ultra-Orthodox people, Haredim, that will come from a demonstration in Jerusalem. They will come to the emergency room. They will be handcuffed, hands and legs. We had a couple of months ago, an old person, 74, 75, who was related to one of our people in Gaza, and he was demonstrating by the Knesset, and he came to the hospital because he was in one of the demonstrations. He got hit by while he was arrested.
You're talking about an Israeli Jew whose relative is a hostage in Gaza.
And he came in and he is handcuffed, a 74-year-old, legs and hands. Even you, if you in the wrong time and the wrong place and you are being detained, you will come to the hospital, you will be shackled, hands and legs, 24 hours, 24/7. And it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or Palestinian, because that's what I said before. When your values, that for some people it's normal, very quickly it drifts into your nations, it drifts into our values, it changes who we are. And we need to be better than that.
Okay, on the one hand, I guess it's somewhat reassuring to know it's not only a racist policy, meaning it's for Jews and Arabs.
They get a bonus. So since October 7, people came, not Nukhba that came from October 7. It doesn't matter. It just became normal. People are coming to the hospital from the prisons. They might come from the West Bank or from Gaza, that they are not necessarily a real terrorist. I don't know what they've done, but they all come the same way. And 4 limbs are being cuffed to the bed, and some of them are blindfolded, and we need to fight with the people. How can I give medical care to someone which is without judgment when he's totally disoriented? How can I get consent to anything I'm doing? Some of them are in malnutrition. Obviously, in our prison, they are losing weight, and Ben Gvir was proud of it, that I'm going to minimize calories of our prisoners. Thousands of prisoners that we are starving. We were all horrified on the pictures of our people in Gaza, how they look. It was just, how can someone do that to someone? It's horrible. Hey, we are minimizing calories to thousands of people in our jails. They're losing weight. People who come to the hospital, they have scabies untreated. It's a torture. They are in malnutrition, blindfolded, cuffed to the beds in four limbs, between 2 or 4 limbs. I mean, that's what we're doing. This is not what Hamas is doing. I don't care what Hamas is doing. Well, I do care. But what Hamas is doing doesn't define me. What we are doing defines me. And if we are losing the ability to see other people, even if we have grave problems and criticism to what they do or what they believe or what they did, but we stop seeing them in human, very dangerous thing in the history of the world, including ours, happened because of this, that you couldn't see someone. And you know what? It's not only because of the fear of October 7. It was here before October 7, just put it on steroids. And my concern that this is not a specific individual effect. It is run systematically by organizations, by some of the politicians that take this as a system to rule, as a system to get support for some parts of the community. And this is so dangerous. It's dangerous for us.
Okay, I want to put some timestamps on what we're talking about here. So the child that you saw, the 12 or 13-year-old who was shackled to the bed after his leg was amputated, what year approximately was that?
Well, that's a few good years before. Since then, we started being very active and monitored the whole thing in different hospitals. So we got the statistic every month. We gave the statistics to the police, to the IDF, and we worked with the ministers back then before the current government. And it was in the parliament. We discussed that. We published the surveys, and we started seeing some decline very gradually when you put the statistics in front of the people's eye. It's all stopped in October 7. I think people shut their minds and their heart. After October 7, I can understand it, but you know what? We need to go back to revert to what we are.
Okay, now I want to return us to Gaza. And post October 7th is not your first interaction with what's going on inside Gaza in terms of the medical situation there. And in fact, you've been monitoring it or being involved in it for many years prior. And what was your assessment before the war of the medical situation in Gaza, including how much medicine was there?
True. The situation, well, now it's a disaster. The whole medical system has been destroyed and ruined. There are a few hospitals that are working only half time or third time, dealing mainly with trauma, not very successfully, mainly with trauma. People with chronic diseases now don't get really minimal care. What happened before October 7? I can tell you from me, I'm a pediatric gastroenterologist. There was no one single pediatric gastroenterologist in the entire Strip of Gaza, 2.2 million people. Just in Jerusalem, I'm estimated we're probably 20. And there were a few adult gastroenterologists that gave some care, which was not ideal. There was no biologics in Gaza, zero. To these very days, zero, nothing. So a child with Crohn's or colitis, or has, or with rheumatological issues, he can lie in bed for months and months with bloody diarrhea or with swollen ankles, and there is no cure for him when only 1 kilometer away they could be very easy treatments. There are now 14 approved biologics in Israel as part of the basket, zero in Gaza, even before October 7. So people say before then it was excellent, it was everything was fine. I mean, we allowed them. That's not true. The system there was very, very broken. What we've done with one of the major international pharma companies, every year we got a donation from them with biologics, and we managed to get it into Gaza with people from the Ministry of Health. At some point, the deputy of the Ministry of Health in Gaza, a very nice guy, his son had Crohn's disease, and he emailed me, exchanged, and we had a discussion about his son. A very nice guy, very peaceful guy. So he was allowed, even by our Israel's rules, he was allowed to go in and to go to conferences and come back. So he was totally security cleared. Every Jewish holidays, he insisted in writing to me in Hebrew, Chag Sameach, and I hope you have a lovely time with your family. And with him, we managed to do some things. Physician for Human Rights, in which I volunteer from time to time in the West Bank, used to send delegations, but only Israeli Arabs back then, so I couldn't go in. I was there as a officer in the paratroopers many years ago, more than 35 years ago. So I know a little bit the strip from then, but not since.
So many people said after the hostages were taken on October 7th and so many were slaughtered in the Gaza envelope, so many pointed out again and again how activist oriented these people were, how often they would drive residents of Gaza to hospitals inside Israel. And it made me wonder how frequent is that kind of behavior going on, meaning how often were Gazans being let out for treatment in Israel proper?
So not enough. It was few. And also on our side, we the activists supporting Gaza, were a small minority in the Israeli situation. That people say, how could they do that? You see, they slaughtered people that helped them, but they attacked. Not I'm justifying anything that Hamas did, but we as a whole, as people who help, unfortunately, a small minority back then. Even today, we're even a smaller minority, but not a negligible minority. So there's a lot of good people that see people and think that if people will be good for other people, and in the end of the day, we meet each other, because there's this generations after generations in our side and on their side that never meet each other. They're being fed from the media and from the social media that are very polarizing. So if someone needs to go out from Gaza to get medical care back then, he needed a financial cover. So nobody in Israel would, to these very days from the West Bank, unless you pay or someone pays for your care, you cannot come in. There was, from the time of Lieberman, when he was the security minister, there was also a carrot and a stick. So if someone, even your second cousin from your distinct family, there was something that you want to pressure because he was coming and demonstrating at the fence, then no one will get a permit. Some other time it used to give our security, the security services, leverage on people. You want to get your child with cancer being treated? Good, you have to now start working with us and to work against what's happening. People say, yeah, but that would put me and my family in danger. I say, well, so your child is dead. So the whole thing is far from being innocent.
And these things, how? How do you find these facts out? From the people themselves?
Well, people themselves. Some things are being published, and many things from discussion that we had specifically with the people that we were working with. For instance, this physician that I just talked to you about, that he was a physician at Shifa. After a few 3 or 4 months after October 7, I heard from a friend that all his family that ran away to a place that was a safe zone from Israel. The house got a missile from one of our airplanes, and all his family, greater family, was killed. And he was in the Shifa hospital, and he was operating. And it took me a few days to dare send him a WhatsApp, and he said, you know what's happening? And he sent me such a message that brought tears to my eyes. So he said, my patient, the joint patient with Crohn's disease, a 17-year-old, is dead. His daughters, his sons, his wife's family, they were killed. He left with his granddaughter, a 3-week-old baby with brain hemorrhage, and then he went, and now he's in Turkey, in Ankara. He went out to have a treatment back then when it was still allowed. And after describing his horror for the entire family, and he says, I'm not a security threat. And I took my family to where I was taken when I should take. Why is that deserved to me? And he said before that, and he writes to me, before that event, I had a discussion with someone else on October 7. I said, that was wrong. You cannot do everything you've done in October 7. And his opponent said, yeah, but the Israelis understand only force, like we say about Hamas. So maybe it's not good, but otherwise they do not listen. And he said, no, there are borders you do not cross. It doesn't matter how cross you are and what you think, what agenda you need to achieve. You cannot do that. These are lines you do not cross. And after what happened, his opponent came to him. Now you understand, where are your lines now with the other side if they don't understand the lines? And he finished his post to me in a personal message saying, this inhuman behavior will not force his mind to extremism, and he will still believe in coexistence and in peace after he lost his entire family. I don't know. He's a noble person. I'm not so sure I would have been so courage to say what it's saying. So people say there's no innocent people in Gaza. Oh, the vast majority are innocent people. Even with people are sitting in a situation like in Israel that they support kill because they want revenge. They're also good people. But people, when you get someone to suffer, and the pain doesn't cause you to kneel, it causes you to be more angry and to get the other side to suffer as well. And we need to put an end to this cycle, and more killing, more suffering, deliberate starvation of population. I mean, every day people are dying from malnutrition in Gaza now, and we are working now with a group of volunteers, David Hassan and Rina Naor and other people here to get formulas, food and vitamins of thiamines, things of refeeding syndrome, working with the World Health Organization and other groups in order to get this formula to children that need it, because I think this is our interest and their interest as well to get this going. So I haven't stopped our activities with Gaza and the West Bank for medical supplies and with training of physicians.
Your truths are extremely difficult to hear, I'm sure, for many with whom you work, many of your neighbors, perhaps, many friends, family. What kind of pushback have you been getting, even before the war, for your work to give, shall we say, your enemy dignity?
Well, it's I think it's probably you can divide it to three different reactions. One of the reaction is the thinking that this is the wrong because we need to eliminate them. They all need to starve, they all need to go. And if I'm doing something else, then I'm a traitor. I am working or acting against the interest of my people. I've been called a auto-anti-Semitic or autoimmune disease, or autoimmune anti-Semitic, every forms of terms you can think of. But that's one third. Another third will say, we understand, and that's really beautiful, but you are naive. Because only forced, look what happened October 7, look what happened before. You are naive to think that you can change anything. Look, people around Gaza that felt like you, they were slaughtered just like anyone else. They are animals. They don't think about other things. And although in principle we agree with your values, but this is not the way forward. And the other group, they open their eyes and they open their heart and they say, you know what? We can see that's important. Not so sure emotionally we can do that now, but we think that this is the way to go, and we salute you for what you're doing. And it's not only me. I mean, there's a big minority in Israel that's what they're doing every day in order to support our values and what we need to do, and to refrain from other things that we are doing in Gaza and in the West Bank as well.
You've mentioned Physicians for Human Rights. What other organizations can we point people who are in that third category to?
I feel it's not only organizations. I mean, in the end of the day, it's people and people to people. And I think that we all, if we put human values before ideology, I think that's a good start for any campus of where we're going. And many individuals in the groups that I write and in people that they know where I stand and what I'm doing. As you came in and you saw my long hair and my beard, and that's not what I am usually. And people look at me and said, "Why is that?" And I said, a year ago I stopped cutting my hair until the war is over, and I stopped shaving when we started avoiding delivering food into Gaza. People ask, and people think, even my patient, they think, "Hey, what happened to you? That's not who you are. You look like a caveman." And we have some discussion, even people that are not left-wing, even right-wing, but it doesn't matter. If many people who are right-wing, they're still human, and they look at other people as human. It's not about left or right. It's about how much you allow your ideology to surpass and to overcome your compassion. And it's something that you need to work with. It's like a little muscle, and you need to work that muscle. You need to work that muscle. Our heart is a muscle, our lungs are muscles, and we need to work on it. And in order to open our heart into revert to values that we want we to treat it, and we say, Hamas cannot do this thing, even if they are so angry, even if they are so right in what their claims are. They're just lines you do not cross. I don't care how much Hamas was sure they are right. I don't care how much they were angry. I don't care if one of these terrorists, IDF killed 10 years ago in one of the operations there, all his children, and now he wants revenge. I don't care. You do not come in. You do not involve in terror. That's a red line. I don't care how much you write. Don't care how much you're angry. the same values, if we want to say that to the world and to other people, we need to say to ourselves, there are lines we do not cross. People understand that. Many people understand that. And I think with time, more and more people understand that when the revenge and the shock of October 7th, and people are starting to revert back to the values that led us. And I feel there's more and more people who understand the values and I think there's a big majority now to stop the war. I mean, the government is doing what they're doing because I'm not so sure they care so much what people are saying. People want enough. People want enough. Enough is enough. We had enough pain. Let's think about a different future to my children, grandchildren. What world we will be here? I mean, people are living in delusions that the 2 million Palestinians in Gaza will vanish because they will just go somewhere, or the 2 million people in Gaza, or the 2 million people, the Israeli Arabs that are friends. And people saying it's impossible. I say, what do you mean impossible? 75 years ago, we had a randomized controlled trial. It's like, some people stayed as an Israeli Arab and got citizenship. Some went to Gaza as refugees and other people. And 75 years later, we can see 2 million Israeli Arab. There's no more terror there than there is in the Jewish community with what is happening in the West Bank. And in Gaza, we see what is happening. So this is something that we can work on, and we can achieve a better world for everyone. We just need to believe and to not stop and to stop working and fighting for it.
Dan, thank you for all of this food for thought.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Times of Israel's What Matters Now. Please check out another installment next week. This episode was produced by the Podwaves. If you have any questions or comments, and I have a feeling we're going to get some comments this time, Dan, please send an email to podcast@timesofisrael.com. Until next week, shalom.